Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our webinar, Shaping Social Value Through VCSE Collaboration. Very lovely to have you. We will just give it a minute or so before we kick off with some introductions and telling you all what we're going to cover over the next hour. But I can see that there are lots of people joining, so I don't want to kick off. I don't want to kick off too soon. I would just say, actually, for people who are coming in, you've probably all used this platform before, especially if you've joined an SVP webinar. But if you've got any general comments, for example, you can't hear something or something's frozen, pop it in the comments chat on the right-hand side. If you have a question that you want to ask the panel, please pop it in. There's a little Q&A bubble that you should be able to see. Please pop that question in there. We might not be able to see it if it gets lost within the general comments questions. Okay, good. I think 2 minutes is probably fine. I'm sure some people are grabbing lunch and then we'll be joining. So first of all, just to introduce myself, I am one of your chairs for today. I'm Anna McChesney-Gordon, the Chief Strategy Officer at Social Value Portal. And then we have another chair, Tia from whatimpact, who I'll get to introduce herself in a second, as well as the rest of our panel. But first, I just wanted to run through a little bit of housekeeping. So Tom, if you could just go through to the next slide. So 3 very quick things. We are recording the session. So any questions that we cover will be recorded. So anyone who has logged on or actually registered, you will receive an email shortly after with a recording of the session. And if we don't get to answer all of the questions that are covered, we can send some follow-up answers there as well. And obviously throughout, please do submit questions for the panel to answer. There will be a few things that we want to cover, and then plenty of time for Q&A. So please do submit questions using that Q&A bubble on the right-hand side. Next slide, please, Tom. Thank you. So we are going to just do 5-10 minutes of presentation between myself and Tia, and then we want to get straight into some discussion with our panel. We've got a great panel lined up for you all from the public, private and third sectors, which is obviously exactly the representation that you need to have a conversation about collaboration. So let me just ask everyone to turn their cameras on and unmute themselves just for a quick introduction. So going down the list, so Tia, then to Paul, then to Jess, just explain who you are and what organisation you work for. That would be great. Tia?
Hello, everyone. So lovely to have you here. My name is Tia Sammanlahti. I run a technology startup called whatimpact.com, which is a national social value marketplace product, and very lovely to have you here.
Thank you. Paul?
Hi, everyone. I'm Paul Meigh. I am the Head of Procurement for Central Bedfordshire Council.
Thank you. Jess?
Hi, everyone. I'm Jess McGlynn. I'm the Social Value Lead at Marston Holdings.
Thank you. Melissa and then Chris.
Hi, everyone. I'm Melissa from Catch22. We are a charity and social business delivering a range of alternative public services across different sectors, including justice, education, employability and skills, and with young people and families. And we come at social value from 2 angles, really. One is that we are a supplier in terms of bidding for government contracts and having to demonstrate our social value in that respect. But also we work in the social value partnerships space, so working with corporates to help them deliver their social value requirements.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chris Stelling. So I work for Carers in Bedfordshire. So we're a much smaller charity than Catch22. We work regionally in Bedfordshire, supporting unpaid carers from the ages of 4, if you believe it, with our young carers, all the way up. So they're people that are usually providing support to a loved one, might be a husband or wife with dementia or a child with additional needs, and across all sorts of conditions.
Brilliant, thank you. So everyone in the audience, you've now had an introduction from whoever's in the panel. As you're going through thinking about your questions, if you've got a question you want to direct to anyone specifically, then please pop it in the question. Otherwise, when I see them, I'll just have a little think about who might be best to come to. So I'm going to hand over to Tia now, just to give a little bit more context about some of the challenges around VCSE collaboration and with her experience at whatimpact. And then we just want to tell you a little bit about the collaboration and partnership between whatimpact and Social Value Portal, which very recently launched and went live, and we're very excited about. And then we will go into some discussion with the panel. So Tia, over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, so a little bit of background. Over the past 7 years, whatimpact National Social Value Marketplace have worked with contracting authorities, businesses, and VCSEs to improve the connectivity of these sectors. And we've been focusing on facilitating grassroots impact and data around this. We are currently involved in Social Value Task Force's VCSE working group, and we are contributing to the white paper of the role of VCSEs in public sector procurement. We are especially specialized on VCSE's role as social value delivery partners to government contractors. And this white paper will be published in October in Social Value Conference. A little bit kind of insight or kind of about our philosophy and our thoughts on social value public sector procurement. So we truly believe that we can make a real difference in our society through the procurement. And since times are changing rapidly, these public sector requirements have now also becoming requirements in private sector procurement, which is a great kind of evolvement of this topic. This really creates an opportunity, the procurement to be a driver in social change. And this then requires a lot of collaboration with contracting authorities, businesses, and VCSEs to work together so we can make the most out of it. And we are big advocates for VCSEs as they bring expertise, well-designed interventions, grassroots connections that are vital for creating meaningful outcomes. And contracting authorities now expect engagement that creates local impact in local area, and VCSEs are uniquely positioned to make that happen. But in order for them to work effectively, both the public and private sector must recognize their role and actively support these activities. Next slide, please. As Anna mentioned, there are still challenges to overcome, and we can do this together. Finding a right VCSE partner can be hard. For social value delivery to align with business strategy and at the same time with the tender criteria, this means that many factors have to be considered. VCSE project, outcome targets, geographical focus, and timelines must be taken into consideration. And at the same time, businesses must bring in resources, whether they are skills, products, services, money, or volunteering. And these resources must genuinely be useful for VCSEs and take their projects further. So misalignment often holds us back. In our experience, businesses often have more to offer than they actually realize, while VCSEs may not know what kind of resources to ask. And this mismatch can lead to short-term transactional partnerships rather than long-term strategic ones. And lots of resources available to VCSEs never find their way home. Manual searching in Google and relying on local listings can be restrictive and even discriminative for regional, nationwide, and those VCSEs operating mainly online. It is not only about the registration address or postcode. In these listings, businesses might not only see a narrow set of partners, while VCSEs may be inclined to ask for immediate support rather than thinking bigger. Expecting suppliers and VCSEs to log into separate platforms in each area is unrealistic. Also, the time and money wasted in building these overlapping directories is just unnecessary. As contract structures vary, partnership requirements vary. Some contracts run for years with strong local footprint, while others are delivered remotely with limited community presence. Businesses therefore need to access to a wide and diverse pool of VCSEs so they can align strategically across different contexts. And scalability is key. Many businesses manage dozens, even hundreds of contracts across the country. In order their social value be embedded to their daily lives, they need to partner with organizations who can deliver in multiple locations, yet have a hyperlocal impact. Positive news in the market, in our perspective, is that there is a big rise of requirement for social value method statements at the moment in procurement. And this means that not only numerical outcomes, but detailed implementing plans are now requested. This shift is critical. It helps ensure that social value is not just a ticker box exercise, but a strategic, transparent, and impactful part of procurement. However, there are challenges in tight bidding frames to create these implementation plans. We know bidding teams and social value managers might have even 400 bids going through their desk in a year, each bid containing social value question. These needs to be processed in proper manner, and these organizations have to have systems and tech solutions in place in order to coordinate this volume. And we are here to help with Social Value Portal. Next slide. We at What Impact are genuinely excited about our unique partnership with Social Value Portal. To our knowledge, there are no other global examples where business VCSE matchmaking platform supported by qualitative impact reporting is directly connected to monetized value measures and a reporting framework. This partnership has a long time in making. Over the years, we have had deep conversations with Social Value Portal about compatibility of our approaches, platforms, and how we can harness the government buying power and business contributors better to serve our economy, communities, and environment. Next slide. Social Value Portal's recent update to TOM system measures has made these opportunities in collaboration even clearer. Across the 30 open access measures and 117 full stack measures, many can be delivered through VCSE partnerships. Some of these are directly related to these partnerships, and while others, such as inclusive hiring, are difficult for businesses to achieve without VCSE expertise, networks, and support. What Impact platform aligns seamlessly with those TOM system measures, which we have now embedded into our matching system, social value planning tool, and impact reporting. We make it easy for businesses to connect with right VCSE partners and report on true outcomes tagged with TOM's measures, those which are planned and delivered. Our reporting approach, developed together with NCVO evaluation services, presents proven outcomes, evidence behind the claims, topped up with real-life stories. This reporting, combined with monetized values, gives valuable data on the both sides of the so-called social value coin. For businesses, this system saves significant amount of time and money in coordination and reporting, as we empower VCSEs to report back with our semi-automated reporting system. Our voluntary management system is also geared for contract-specific opportunities and reporting. For the public sector, this provides unique insights into how their contracts are changing lives locally and what lessons can be learned. Councils such as Central Bedfordshire, Peterborough City Council, Gloucestershire are already centralizing their local matching and reporting on What Impact. Tens of councils will follow. Our platform has an extensive open access service layer, and we invite all companies to join for free to start using the system and browse around. VCSEs never pay, and we never take commission on any donation. Finally, I want to thank Social Value Portal team for their smooth and dedicated collaboration in preparing these partnerships. We have worked closely on the data science, communication, other aspects of this partnership. Together, we are soon publishing a joint guide on how TOM system measures can be delivered through VCSE partnerships. We also offer other guides about these VCSE partnerships that are already available on our platform for free. With this, I will hand back to Anna, who will share more from social value points of view.
That's great. Thanks, Tia. Yeah, it's really exciting to finally be able to talk about all of this after spending the summer doing some of that planning and mapping. But as Tia said, you know, the main thing is there are so many hundreds of thousands of VCSEs working across the country, delivering great outcomes. They know their locations, they know their communities, they know their beneficiaries. And at the same time, at Social Value Portal, we know that there are organizations with really ambitious, innovative commitments that they want to make around social value, and know that they need to collaborate with the VCSE sector and create partnerships in order to deliver those things. So being able to match those two things up together just makes it much more efficient to think about what you should be doing and who you could work with, and then importantly, how to actually collect the right data and evidence and testimonials and case studies and get to the stage where you've got a really holistic, impactful report about what has been delivered. So the big concept for us was thinking about how Social Value Portal and What Impact could work together and complement each other. If you think of the four key stages of plan, partner, deliver, and report. So planning, thinking about what is the most appropriate outcomes and measures to focus on. Have you done a needs analysis? Have you engaged with charities and community groups that are on the ground to hear their own perspective? What other community engagement has been done? Then deciding the most appropriate groups to partner with and making sure that it's not a one-way relationship and they are getting something meaningful out of it as well. So the match is genuinely needed on both sides. And then delivery can be it can be quick, it can go on for some time, but it needs to be meaningful, and data and evidence needs to be collected so that it's really clear for whoever then wants to understand about the reporting and what has happened, that they can hear from beneficiaries, and they can see the data, and they can see the evidence. So it's really exciting collaboration for us, and we are thrilled that it's now all out in the open. So of course, if there are questions, then pop them into the chat, but otherwise I'm going to hand back to Tia to chair a discussion with the rest of our panel, who of course span public, private and third sector.
Yes, let's dig deeper into the topic, and our kind of focus here is that how suppliers, VCSEs and contracting authorities can collaborate earlier in the procurement to make better outcomes. And the panelists have already introduced themselves, so let's dig into the first questions. And I will give this to Paul first to answer. What is the contracting authority's role in ensuring that social value delivered through these partnerships is maximized in procurement?
Well, I say it's pretty much core. I think that's what members want for their communities, Tia. So I think what we're seeing is, yes, there's a legal requirement to ask for social value in all procurements. Where we've come from is a place where the ask was pretty insignificant because the percentage that was allocated to getting an answer was so low. What we've done is increase that percentage from like 2% to 10%. So it's a really significant outcome to say that 10% of your offer to us, supplier, will be assessed against social value. So I think what we're seeing is an increase in the importance of social value has to play in our communities. Yeah. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, just to a follow-up question. How do you then choose TOM measures? Are you then for every contract like evaluating what the VCSE related measures would be suitable?
It depends. So we have adopted TOMS as that is the measurement system for local government. There are a lot of Tom's measures, and what we did was to take, I think, something like 2,000 measures, reduce them to 200. These are for very large projects. For smaller projects, we've adopted an even lower number to make it easier for suppliers to understand what it is we're going to measure. And we've also published our policy, which looks at the needs assessment of the authority as well, so that they get a steer for what sort of things are we looking for, because it's a very broad church, social value. It goes from sustainability right the way through to, you know, getting the disabled into work, for example. It's massive. So I think understanding what an authority wants is vital. The issue is that suppliers find it difficult, which is where having a third-party broker to actually say, well, here, look at this, is so helpful.
Yeah. Chris, would you like to top it up a little bit from VCSE point of view? How do you see local contracting authorities can kind of impact on the life of your type of charity?
Yeah, I mean, from our point of view, I mean, we've had limited engagement, I suppose, on that kind of social value element from corporations. It tends to have been we've been connected by chance because someone is interested in our cause, or they can see that cause within their workforce and they've connected. So it's really quite exciting to see this kind of linkage happening, and seeing the value that Central Bedfordshire are placing on that social value is sort of kind of putting your money where your mouth is, really. I mean, from our perspective, so we're a local charity, very much within the communities that we're serving and connected to those, and are delivering that grassroots impact day in, day out. So for us, we know what's needed on the ground. We know what we could deliver, what we are delivering, what works well, what doesn't quite work so well. Both from a monetary point of view, but also from other kind of ways of contributing to our mission as well. There's all sorts of things that we can take more strategic advice on, or connect with organisations who have a similar ambition and have different skill sets that we don't have. So it's not always kind of a monetary contribution that we're looking for.
Yeah. Okay, well, good. There might be times changing from the random contacting, hopefully for more constant, like a contact flow, which would enable more like a longer term planning for also this voluntary income and other support. Jess, when the tender processes are very tight sometimes, how do you make these VCSE partners meaningful? Because you have to kind of find partners for different criteria quite soon. How is this pressure reduced, and how do you manage this?
Yeah, it's quite tricky because the tender process can be quite fast, but actually building relationships is not. So having platforms like whatimpact, and then being able to connect with local organisations. So for example, whatimpact, you connected us with Catch 22 and Class of Your Own, and they were able to give us really hyper-local knowledge, and they've got local networks and referrals. That is it's just incredible being able to geographically understand what the local needs are is really important. I know we're going to talk about it a little bit later, I think, but co-creation as well with VCSE is really important. Where that sits in the procurement process, I think still needs a little bit of refinement. You know, I had sight of a tender recently where they asked for co-creation with local organisations, but VCSEs are time pressured, right? They don't need 10, 15 suppliers coming to them and saying, we may have a contract in your area. Tell us what your need is. So I think being able to use technology, being able to use impact platforms to refine that is going to be key, really.
Yeah, and making it a VCSEs easy to respond quickly, and then to see whether there is any ground for collaboration and not wasting time. And I thought, of course, that people are sending lengthy proposals and emails and stuff, although things could be happening somewhere in much more efficient place, like certain specific dashboards and communication channels. Melissa, how about from the VCSE kind of point of view, how would you like to go about this process?
Well, I would agree with a lot of what Jess says around, timing a premium for VCSEs as well. So as much notice as we can get is brilliant. And again, that's why platforms like whatimpact are so good. Anna mentioned in her sort of intro around the kind of different stages, I guess, of forging a partnership. So the planning stage, I think, is so important. So even during, the bid process, pre-market engagement, thinking about that social value element, in most bids, it's 10% plus now. So it deserves that kind of time and attention to it. I would totally agree about the idea of that kind of local knowledge and local landscape, of which VCSEs, whether it's a large organization like ours that has sort of regional and local services and programs, or whether it's a more very a very localized organization, they will know the local needs well and understand those needs. So I think it's very much that kind of partnership approach, use the expertise that the voluntary sector has. And the other thing I would say, and something that we recently responded to the public procurement consultation, obviously heavily focused on social value, and something we were sort of saying in there is that actually for organizations to have almost sort of a roster, using something like whatimpact, but having your own sort of idea of who those suppliers may be, or those VCSEs may be that you want to work with, knowing the types of work that you're going to bid for, can be really helpful. Because I think, as Jess and others have said, building that relationship means that you're more likely to get a response quickly. You kind of know the organization. It's more a case of sort of flexing the offer depending on the contract, as opposed to starting from scratch. And I think it's when you're starting from scratch that it becomes quite tricky.
Yeah, absolutely. So Paul, this pre-engagement now, which is kind of emphasized in the Procurement Act and stuff, how social value should be kind of handled in that stage? It wouldn't be only about the products or service you are purchasing. Are you already asking something about the social value delivery as well in that stage?
Oh, well, exactly. And I think what we are doing is looking at how do we inform our supply base, and we are currently engaging in creating an opportunity to have a direct communication with the supply base. So we talk already with our VCSEs, and now we want to talk to our supply base about what we're doing and how they can help us. And that's currently being planned for TIA. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, so how can suppliers ensure that social value commitments are realistic and that the plans are like actually instantly implementable? If Jess, you are writing all these like a method statement, so to speak, are you planning everything in detail, or is there still something that you kind of like create without asking the VCSE, or how does it work?
Yeah, I think there is always a risk that your commitments are going to be tokenistic or perhaps overambitious. I think it's really important that suppliers think about what they can deliver and deliver well, and that they make sure that, like we've already said, that they are in conversation with local VCSEs to make sure that it's actually relevant as well. I know as an organisation, what we want to make sure is that the impact that we're having is long-term and actually meaningful for the local communities, rather than just an umbrella idea of what we think would be really helpful. I think using impact platforms, using local intelligence, as Melissa's already mentioned, to make sure that the offer that we've got is relevant, I think is really, really important. Engaging with local organisations who have those, I mean, Melissa's already said it, they have those that local knowledge, they have those connections, and they are able to then facilitate what an offer might look like. And as I've already mentioned, I think co-creation is really key. I personally would love to see some more legislation around how the tender process works and how social value looks, to make sure that actually what we're going for is quality over quantity, so that we can make sure that the impact that we're having is sustainable and is longer term than the contract end. I don't know if that's blue sky thinking, but certainly as a supplier, it would make, actually, when we're considering what our offer is, it would make it much more impactful, I think, and much more relevant to what we're offering.
How about Chris? I mean, you are not a tiny charity, but you are local and kind of medium size, I would say, maybe. You know, how do you see that kind of? Is it very straining if then a lot of suppliers start to contact you and want to co-create, and you don't even know whether the actual work would take place? And kind of considering that some VCSEs don't have like fundraising managers or like dedicated people for the job, they would need to do this alongside of their beneficiary work, this planning. How do you see this from a VCSE point of view?
Yeah, so I mean, from our perspective, we wouldn't have a corporate relationships manager. We don't have a fundraising manager as such. So it's likely the people that you'd be engaging with us would be service delivery is probably their primary job. So what they'll know is the impact they can deliver and the cost for that impact and those outcomes, and they can be very clear with that. But they would be, 99% of their other job is on the front line or supporting those frontline services, and that certainly would be the case with us, not for other organisations, of course. And so trying to juggle inbound contacts where the offer is perhaps vague or we might want to do this, that can become time consuming, and very quickly we'd need to get good at kind of filtering out what's worth the time or not. So.
Yeah, understandable. How about you, Melissa? Although you are a larger organization, you must have a view on this as well.
Yeah, it's still a challenge, and I would echo what Chris said there, because when we get approached and it's sort of, we've got a vague idea of what we should be delivering against this social value question, but we're not quite sure. And again, I think it goes back to that point about, it's Jess's point around co-creation. And actually, we are really comfortable if an organization comes to us and says, look, this is the social value kind of challenge we're trying to address. How do you think as an organization you could support us with that? And I think where that happens, that can be effective. I would go back to my point as well, but if you've got an existing relationship with a VCSE, you're going to understand what they can offer better. And so that sort of process, the planning process, speeds up. And the other point I would guess, and it might be a bit of the elephant in the room, but is around the kind of money that's put towards social value commitments. Now, as an organization, sometimes we find that it's not quite valued in the it doesn't match the percentage that is the weight that social value is carrying in a bid is not matched by the amount that an organization is prepared to put towards delivering that. Now, some charities can take volunteers and we'll do stuff that's sort of this added value idea, but actually for many it will cost to do this kind of work, and it will cost to do it in a meaningful way. So I would say being upfront about what the budgets are and realistic about having that dialogue about what could be achieved from an impact perspective with the right amount of budget is really important, and it's important to have those early on. Because if something's put in a bid and then you come back to the charity and say, can you deliver it, but for half the price, in most cases the answer will be no. But
and this is absolutely, we face this conversation many times, and it's not only money, it's also the other resources that if a corporate thinks about an annual level, there should be almost like budgeting. How many apprentices can we take? How much money what is the realistic expectation of number of volunteers that we can actually commit? Because it's never going to be 100% of the staff, although you have the volunteering program. Then what are the products, services? There are so many things which are valuable, but there should be like almost like a pool of resources that you then have to use in those contracts, because it's indefinite, and that is a challenge, and kind of a lot of VCSEs seem to now struggle with these managing their operations, because everybody just wants to put into resources to direct outcomes, the beneficiary work, but there is lots of coordination and all kind of safety and health and whatever involved that has to be funded too. Yes, so moving on. So what about Paul? How do you kind of evaluate these social value plans that you get? Can you kind of see through it that it's just like a very ad hoc tick a box something that, or if they're like a meaningful like some kind of a golden thread around it? How do you evaluate that? Do you a procurement team evaluate, or do you have social value people to kind of score
Well,
these?
we have a social value. Yeah, so we have a social value officer within my team, whose role it is to lead and make change happen within the structure to make social value normal part of the process that we go through. His role is to support evaluations and potentially to help with them. So the social value element, the 10% or more, I've seen some colleagues more ambitious, and perhaps we should be more ambitious, but we come from a long way, so we've still got some traveling to do. But the actual submission is then split in terms of the 10% is considered both in terms of proxy values, which will be the Tongs measures, but also the methodology with which is going to be used. You know, how robust is it? Which is, colleagues have been saying is, just picking something and going, yeah, there you go, doesn't win you the day, because they have to be sensible proposals that we believe are appropriate. I've also seen a lot of comments about who decides what you ask for. Well, that should come from us, from a local authority. We're interested in how does it benefit our local community, and our local community has needs, and we published what we think the community needs, and we'll refresh it periodically so suppliers can see what we need. The challenge is then converting that into something that helps that need, which is where brokerage is really helpful, because it helps suppliers that don't have a lot of time. They haven't got lots of people in their organization looking at, let's analyze this needs assessment and see what we can do. So if there's something which they can link to that says, well, this organization, Bedfordshire, or whatever it is, would really welcome some help in this area, they can then make a pledge. It makes it a lot easier for them, and it's better for us because we expect to get more out of it for the local community.
Anna, how we are with time?
I was just about to say that there's, as expected, there's lots of questions that have been coming through. So I think if okay with you, we'll jump to some of the audience questions.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you for that discussion. So yes, lots of questions coming through. Please note, if you see a question that you really want to see answered, or you were going to ask yourself, you can point the upward arrow. It upvotes it and it moves it to the top of the list. I'm going to just pick a couple initially. So Tabitha Searle from Veolia, so a large private sector supplier, as most would know. She has a question about what happens when organizations are in an area for a time, but then leave. The contract ends, it's not extended, whatever it might be. So I'm going to ask Chris, I think, because you're so rooted in a local area. So in Tabitha's saying, if you're there for 3 years, maybe 5 years, and then you build up this good relationship with the VCSE, and then suddenly you go, how does that, I mean, presumably it does create an issue for you as a VCSE, or are you kind of always thinking about, right, this organization is going to go, let's line up some other supporters for when they leave?
Yeah, I mean, the life of a third sector is short-term funding anyway. We work kind of on 1, 2, 3, 5 years is great as a cycle. So in terms of kind of looking around the corner, that's what we do day in, day out. So I wouldn't say that's a barrier at all. Being upfront with, this is the time period we're in here for. This is what we need to get out of it. Do you have programs that would work here? We can absolutely respond to that, and most organizations will be able to, as long as they know there's a defined time period from the get-go.
Right. Thank you.
Can I come on that quickly, Anna, just really quickly,
please,
from a catch perspective? Because I think the other way of sort of looking at this is, so for an organisation like us, I'll just take an example in the employability and skills space. So we run programs for people facing barriers to work into jobs, and we do that in different regions. We do it with different cohorts, care experienced young people, ex-offenders, etc. And where we found it can work really well is if you have a kind of an existing program that's delivering, then we can flex to the different kind of region. or the different, the different geography or the different cohort to meet the kind of social value need. So I think what we're talking about here is the kind of synergy between social impact as an organization might be sort of funding corporately and social value, and where those two can kind of work together, and you can sort of draw down from your social impact program into social value by putting those kind of regional emphasis on it. That can work really effectively.
Thank you. So there was a question from Nick Foster, who is from I Am Celebrating Autism in Greater Manchester. And I'm going to ask Jess for some thoughts and then Melissa. So Jess from an organisation that would be looking to collaborate, and then Melissa as somebody who probably has some insight and some key learning to offer. So the question, as you all can see, I am celebrating Greater Autism's at the start of a social value journey. What are some good steps to take to make us more attractive and collaborate to partner with? So Jess, from your perspective as an organisation looking to collaborate, what do you think? Have you just got a couple of tips you could give Nick and his team?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've touched on it already. Both VCSEs and suppliers are often short on time. So I think having a clear idea of what your ask is and having that either visible if you've got social media or website. Often when I'm looking for deliverables, that's where I'll go. I'll go and look at social media sites and see what organizations are looking for. The other thing I think is having a really clear idea of what you stand for. Obviously you do. But we would look for VCSEs whose missions align with our commitments. So I think if you've got that information so that there's no ambiguity around what the ask and what the offer is, I think it's going to save time on both sides, really. You're not going to be approached and then have to go away and think, and it'll just, I think it'll save time on both sides, just understanding what your ask is. And Tia already touched on this, that actually think about outside of in-kind and monetary donations are great, and I know that VCSEs need those, but also thinking wider as well. What kind of expertise might you need that a supplier, maybe through mentoring or training, think wider than just the sort of direct donation as well.
Yeah, I would agree with all that. I think being clear what your offer is and also how that links to the kind of social value framework, so you can start to categorize that, and very practically. So we do that through what we sort of call commitment tables. So what commitments can we make around kind of, whether it's employability and skills or well-being or whatever those sort of buckets are, and what are the sort of outcomes that we can deliver that. Now, obviously, it's going to flex depending on what the corporate needs, but as Jess says, being clear about what you can offer and how it matches to the social value frameworks, I think is really important. I would also say, obviously, signing up to platforms like whatimpact, so that you've actually got a profile for that, so as well as on your own kind of social media and websites, I think is really important.
Thank you. I hope that was useful, Nick. But obviously, reach out to any of the panel if you want to talk a bit more about it. So I've actually just got a quick question for Tia, and then I'm going to do a refresh on the votes and come to and look at whatever has been upvoted the most. Tia, there was a question from Zoe Bowden from Wren Junction Limited that's asking about how SMEs can make the most of the platform. So if there are SMEs who have, it says social value themes, I'm guessing some kind of requirements, commitments flowing down to them from prime contractors in defence and space, can they make use of the whatimpact platform? It's kind of a leading question because I know the answer is yes, but I'd like Zoe to have the answer and understand that this is for all kinds.
Emphasize that whatimpact, first of all, is an open access platform. So we have a big free layer. You can use all the map functionalities. You can make partnership offers and receive applications for free. So there's no barrier for SMEs in that sense. We have then premium features. It's a SaaS platform, very affordable. So this is not the software system that is installed in big corporates. It's a platform like a LinkedIn or HubSpot or something that you subscribe, and there are tiered opportunities to use then premium features as well. So I encourage everybody just to sign up, because it's free. You can find partners, you can use certain features, and even use a social value planning tool for free. So technically, the planning states when you're bidding, that is kind of free. And that leaves then, creates a level playing field for SMEs also to use the platform and be on the same part and maybe bigger companies. And these different primes, obviously social value requirements are still the same many times, regardless what industry the main contractor is working for. So, just when you have a social value question and they are asking certain deliverables or outcome themes or whatever framework they are using, or the central government social value model or something, you can find these partners with that in our offer-based system, because our offers can be tagged to also government social value model outcome targets, like they can be tagged for TOM system measures. So you can make offers with certain criteria and get responses in a couple of days.
Great, thanks, Tia. And I would also just say, Zoe, if some of these SMEs, they can also download the open access TOM system. So the 30 sort of top core measures are open access, and just doing an initial mapping exercise to some of the key measures that are in there would always help and explain to the primes the kinds of measures and outcomes and therefore themes that feel as though they're most relevant as well. So that's also worth doing. Okay, great, thank you. So there's a question from Sam Hayes from Placed CIC, and I'm going to ask Paul to come at it from a public sector perspective. So why are some tenders asking for new social value rather than existing commitments? What do you think, Paul? How do you approach it from a local authority perspective?
Well, we see social value as an extra benefit, which is a win-win-win. It's a win for us as a community. It's a win for the suppliers, and it's a win for the council. So, what we're looking at here is this is what we require. This is our core requirement, delivering the service or the product or whatever it is. And in addition, we're asking whether you can help us with social value commitments. So we'd see social value as an additional offer that we can get. We don't have to have a social value offer. Obviously, it's up to the market to decide what they're willing to offer us, but we're asking for it, and you can provide it over and above what you're delivering. So when you talk about new social value, every tender, every procurement has an opportunity for new social value. I do understand that a lot of what's being delivered, especially in the care sector itself, could be classified as social value. The whole thing is social value. So, I get that there is a kind of view, well, actually, everything we do is social value. So why are you asking us for social value? Because that's what we do. And I get that, but legally we have to ask for it. And socially, it's a good idea to ask for it because there can be extra benefits that we can tap into, like volunteering and the like. So I think we'd say is that every tender that we ask for gives an opportunity to offer new social value, but it's not a mandated requirement. It's up to the market to decide what the offer they're willing to provide is.
Great, thank you. Chris, do you have anything to add just from a VCSE perspective? I mean, Placed is also a VCSE, so do you have anything to add to what Paul said?
I don't think so. Not really to that question, because I'm never sure how those commitments are sort of decided from, and from our perspective, there's always a bit of decoding and trying to translate what that means and what that would look like on the ground. So I would just say that if you're unsure of what that means, have a conversation with organisations such as us, and we can kind of decode that and say, well, actually, we do X, and you can translate that into Y.
Okay, that's great.
Anna, I could maybe comment.
Sorry, Sam, just add, because there's a second part to the question, which I'm not sure I really addressed, which is how is the long-term delivery valued? When we look at the procurement, we're looking at the whole life of the procurement. So it's multi-year. We're looking at what impact does that have over multiple years, and that is then written into the contract. But that value is a contractual commitment because it's offered during a procurement, and it's down to us and the contract managers to make sure it's delivered properly. That just sort of cover that part of the question as well.
Great, thank you. Tia, did you have something to add?
Yeah, just not that we are experts on VCSEs kind of directly committing, but what we have learned on the way that many times VCSEs, when they are selling directly to the government, they might kind of sell the whole package as a service offer for the contractual price, but there are a lot of elements that could be considered as added value. They are not some requests that were asked in the tender. So this is just a very rough example that if you're selling like care home services for elderly people, and then you have like a book club and you do dance lessons and that's not necessarily what the government was buying. They bought the the room and the nursing and certain like a basic care. And then when this organization is then delivering these with voluntary income, because they have maybe partner charities who are coming in, they have volunteers doing these products, that is their additional value that they can kind of then commit even within that service remit. And then, of course, any VCSE, can partner with totally different type of VCSE and totally different cause. For instance, care home could be partnering with some environmental charity and do some environmental contributions as part of their social value. But like Paul said, that technically in the contractual obligation, that social value, what the service inherently delivers, that is what the government is already paying for. And there is then this additionality, sorry, my second language, and that needs to be considered. But yeah, I think that every VCSE will find that additional bit if they look carefully.
Thanks, Tia. And don't worry about stumbling. I have 0 second languages, so you're doing very, very, very well. So I'm going to come to Kerry Louise Quinn's question, fundraiser from CSL. It links in really nicely, actually, just to some of the comments from the previous question. This webinar was always all about VCSEs as a partner and a collaborator and an enabler of social value delivery, but we are obviously all well aware that VCSEs bid for public sector contracts as well. Melissa, you at Catch 22, this is obviously a big part of what you do, and you must share a similar frustration. So what are your initial thoughts on Mary Louise's question?
Absolutely, I have a lot of sympathy for that, and it's frustrating, quite frankly, when you as an organization are inherently delivering social value or social impact day to day, and yet you have to sort of prove on top. The first point I would say is Tia's point is excellent, I think, and we're lucky. We're a relatively large organisation. We have recently taken on a social value coordinator who is fantastic and has already uncovered a lot of this sort of added value work that we're doing as part of our delivery contracts that we can put into social value answers. So I think there's something about how you think about social value and how you approach that. The other thing to say is we've recently created what we're calling a community partner network for Catch 22. So this is our attempt to kind of partner and build capacity within smaller VCSEs who may be delivering parts of the bigger contracts that we have. And I'll put a link into it in case any of you listening are interested in joining that. And as part of it, we want to kind of, as I said, help build capacity. And so to answer your question directly, some of that will be around how can we answer social value questions more effectively? Can we share some kind of examples? Can we help each other as a sector? Because, government have said how important it is that VCSEs are delivering, public services, but there are those barriers there for us. So I'll put a link to that in the chat, Kerry Louise, in case it's helpful, and very happy to kind of chat outside, because I realise we're a sort of a relatively big organisation in this space, but it remains a big challenge.
I think also, thank you, Melissa, for that. I think also it's worth bearing in mind that regardless of whether you are a VCSE or not, we know that there are varying levels of maturity around social value when it comes to public sector procurement teams, and certainly public sector contract management teams as well. So we really try at Social Value Portal, and I'm sure other organisations do as well, to really encourage buyers to think about what are the most appropriate and proportionate and relevant social value commitments to request of suppliers depending on the contract, because you can't just lift and shift what you might expect from a £400 million infrastructure contract to a £200,000 legal services contract. They are completely different things. The organisations bidding for them will be completely different things, and the opportunity for collaboration with VCSEs will be completely different as well. So it's definitely a frustration for VCSEs directly bidding. I understand that. It is a wider challenge in the industry that we and others are definitely have been trying to address as best as possible, but certainly is a challenge. Okay, thank you for that, and Carrie Louise for that question. So we've got 4 minutes left, and I think that there's probably time for one more question, and it's a really good question, and I'm not sure exactly who to ask of it on the panel. It's Aidan Galashan's question, Aidan from Network Rail, so thank you for this. If any of the panel feel as though they are best placed to give some thought to this, then please jump in, but it's been upvoted a few times. People are obviously interested in it, and it is something that we talk about a lot at SVP. So obviously, social value requirements should be focused around local needs. Social value commitments should be made with a view to what are the local priorities and needs. But sometimes large buyers, or you might have a contract that doesn't have a kind of local footprint. Maybe it's a big telecoms contract or something like that. So how can there be a local focus when looking at these large national contracts? Does anyone on the panel want to dive into that one?
I think, Anna, I think it's tricky because actually a lot of what we want locally is also wanted nationally.
Yeah.
So there are many organisations that deliver to many local areas, which are national organisations, or they're linked. So, you know, in terms of a national focus, you know, the question is, well, what does the nation need? And of course, what it needs is employment and, you know, all the things that we want locally, but on a national scale. How can you be fair when you are focused on a central government contract? And I'm not sure that you can be. I think, you know, other than that, you'd say, well, which area in the UK needs the most help?
Yep.
Can we focus on that? That would kind of be fair. It's a tricky one, Anna. Yeah.
I could also, you know, of course, everything resonates with Paul here, but I kind of thinking that National Procurement Policy Statement has kind of listed some key focus areas. And if then organization who is doing this kind of national contract could choose almost like something that is strategically aligned with their values and choose maybe one slot there or two kind of aspect of things, and then, you know, find partners in national level in those areas, like Paul said, where the deprivation is the you know, biggest. You don't have to like then have the impact in every single corner of the country, but then there would be like a story behind it that, and you could then more easy also build that story and engagement within the employees when if you want them to volunteer or be active in these things, that it resonates with them and there is a coherent story why this organization have chosen now to focus on these. And if then is needed to find maybe 20 or 30 organizations in different parts of the country to be those delivery partners within this one cause or one kind of outcome targets, which are then locally relevant, of course, like our type of platforms then help to find these partners nationwide, and then they can be managed like as a joint management system rather than, you know, looking them one by one somewhere and spreading the contacting and the project management then also in emails and stuff like, which is very burdensome and risky in terms of delivery then over several years.
That's great. Thank you very much. Perfectly on time with some final reflections there, Tia. Thank you. So it's 2 o'clock. We have lots more questions, but I'm afraid that we have run out of time. So I would say a big thank you to Paul, Jess, Melissa, and Chris, and then of course to you, Tia, for your presentation and your panel discussion. I hope people in the audience found that fruitful and insightful. If there are any specific questions that you've got for any of the panelists, please just reach out to them. If there's questions that you have for myself and Tia about the collaboration and partnership between What Impact and Social Value Portal, please reach out to one of us. The final thing I would just say is, if you haven't already, please do register for the Social Value Conference, which is next month in October. There are 2 days of online and 1 day in person in Birmingham, and there will be even more discussions just like this and covering a lot more topics. So hopefully see lots of you there. But thank you very much again to the panel and everyone that joined. Enjoy your afternoon.
Everyone.
See you.